Doomslayer vs. Rhulk. Now, it's been a long time since then, but I had promised to do some Doom power scaling. And frankly, I'm not really wanting to cover Rhulk all that much nowadays, but for someone like the Doomslayer, Rhulk matches thematically. So, let's see who wins. Before I begin, if you guys would like me to make a Doomslayer power scale, 50 likes. That is the goal in this video. You've heard me. 50 likes. If you do that, I will make a Doomslayer video. Anyway, let's begin. What many people know is that you have Doom 3, Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 2016, Doom Eternal. People theorize that Doom 3 also happened inside an alternate universe, but that's neither here or there. You can either put it before Doom 1 or just in its own dimension. But what people don't know is that there's actually an id multiverse, as an id software multiverse. Within this multiverse, I'm mostly going to look at 3 different franchises in it. If you want to talk about other stuff within this multiverse, awesome, but I'm mostly going to be talking about 3 of them, which is Doom, Wolfenstein, and Quake. It's been stated multiple times that there's an id multiverse and not all of this is canon. And that in the Doom novels, specifically, I use the first 2 because the 3rd and 4th ones don't really do a whole lot for the story and kind of just go in their own direction. I used Doom 1 and Doom 2 of the novel to show that when the Doom guy was named Blackalix III, he's a very far down the line descendant of Blackalix from Wolfenstein. There's a theory on Blackalix III being the son of Commander Keen, or being a descendant of Commander Keen, but theorizations on the history of Doom guy is for, well, a Doomslayer power scale. Without overcomplicating anything, the long and short of what you want to know about the cosmology is more or less a few things. The 3 franchises I'm talking about, which is Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein, each state that there's an infinite amount of universal space-times. Because we know they're all canon to each other, this is 3 different franchises saying multiple times that there's an infinite multiversal plus type cosmology for the base part. And then, going back to Doom, you can use Hell containing this infinite multiverse and say it's 5D because it's transcendental to those universes. And then there's Urdak, which is on the opposite side of the cosmology from Hell. Urdak also is a 5D place, but it does scale below Hell, even though it does scale above the infinite universes within the id multiverse. Now, what's worth stating is that this 5D place, which is Hell, contains many, many infinite sets and many levels of infinite. So by definition, Hell and Urdak are infinite 5D. Before I continue, let me address a couple things that I find are really annoying when I scale Doom. There's a 6th dimension argument, and then there's the unlimited argument from the art book. Let's start with the 6th dimension thing first. The 6th dimension is the 6th dimension in a numbered set of dimensions. It's not the 6th dimension within a stacking cosmology. It does not mean Doom is 6th dimensional, since Hell peaks at infinite 5D, so because Hell peaks at infinite 5D, the 6th dimension is just one of multiple dimensions that scale below Hell. The other thing is the art book statement that says Hell is unbound by space and time. Specifically, it says unlimited by space and time. What it's specifically saying is Hell has these infinite universes from like Quake, Wolfenstein, and like Doom itself. It has all these universes inside of it. It's unlimited by space and time on the level that those universal space-times are a part of Hell. and that hell continues to devour parts of the universe around it in order to grow bigger and stronger. It's more or less a living, breathing thing, as stated within Doom, or Doom Eternal. I forgot where that part was stated in particular, though. Moving back over to the Doomslayer, when he was still mortal, as in when he became the king of the Night Sentinels but hadn't become a god yet, he was taken by Samuel Maker and given to the Divinity Machine. The Divinity Machine gave him the power of Davoth. What that did was it gave Doomslayer enough of a power increase to the point that regardless in where you scale Davoth, you either consider him still nerfed or you consider him at his literal strongest with no nerf, Doomslayer outscales Davoth and would win no matter what. This puts the Doomslayer at infinite 5th dimensional. And for speed, we actually have a lot of speed feats. In Doom 1, Doom 2, 64, 2016, and Eternal, demons on the higher ranking levels, whether it's the Con Maker who's from Urdak, who's become demonic, or you have the Spider Arachnid or the Spider Mastermind, they're interacting with universal space-time itself in order to move planets into hell, or to move parts of universes into hell. We also have the Urdak characters being able to move between time and space. There's a lot of immeasurable speed stuff, surprisingly, in Doom Eternal, as well as Doom 1, 2, and 3. But, yeah, Doomslayer is pretty fast into immeasurable speed. And then, besides that, Hugo Martin, the game director for Doom Eternal, actually did quite a few live streams covering the story for the game, where he started out on the easiest mode and then gradually moved up to Nightmare mode. And while I don't remember if he played Ancient Gods 1 or 2, I am aware he at least played and beat the main story, and he said a lot of interesting lore stuff about the Doomslayer. One of which is, he can constantly just bring up the power-ups from out of nowhere and just pop them in his hand. So we're talking about infinite ammo, berserk, invisibility, any random power-up you see on the map from any of the games at all, he can just randomly summon them into his hand and get the amp. Besides that, you have the Slayer with his Praetor suit, where that lets him absorb Argent energy. He's capable of atomic destruction, molecular destruction, physical destruction. He can destroy your mind. We know he can destroy your body, obviously, and then he can obviously interact with and possibly destroy souls. We've saw it at least in the boss fight with Davoth, as well as against random marauders within the story of Doom Eternal. So he obviously should be able to destroy souls. Now, it is stated verbatim that he's the right hand of Doom, that he's Doom itself, as in he is a concept. This means the amount of devastation he causes, the amount of doom that he leaves in the wake of the demons, the stronger that he gets. While we're unaware of whether or not his Doom ability is exclusive to demons, I'm willing to bet that it's not, actually. We do have a lot of other stuff to look at. He has his multiple guns, each with 1 or 2 different mods, as in the meat hook with the super shotgun, the combat shotgun, the chain gun, the heavy cannon, the ballista, the plasma gun, the BFG, the sentinel sword, the hammer. As for age and experience level, as in combat training, we have a lot of that too, surprisingly. So, first off, he was a space marine, as in the toughest of the toughest, so you were someone who was on Earth who was then stationed on another planet. But what happened to him was because he refused to shoot his fellow man, he was stationed on a planet like Mars to guard it, as punishment, and then the demons invaded. Now, as a space marine, he's able to take on and kill the demons just fine, and escape from Mars from Doom 1. And then he finds his way back to Earth after he's found his way in hell and found his way out of it. And then he goes on another path killing the demons. And then Doom 3 happens a while after Doom 2. Doom 64. Doom 64 happens a while after Doom 2. And it's after Doom 64 they decides to lock himself in hell with the demons and just forever kill the demons. So, because he's in hell for a long time, constantly killing demons and collecting energy from them, he's slowly becoming more than just a mere human. And he's been in hell for millions, if not billions of years at this point, constantly hunting and killing demons in his bloodlust and rage. Eventually, he meets the Night Sentinels, and it's there that he becomes a member of the Night Sentinels. He trains with them, and he eventually becomes one of them. He's now he's now one of them. They do missions together, and he teaches them his training, his experiences from Mars and Earth and before he locked himself in hell. In return, he learned their skills, their cultures, their training. He earned their respect, and he earned a lot of power. And over time, he became the king of the Night Sentinels. He became the very thing that ruled over him initially. And then, he was then turned into a god. And then a long time after that, after he's sealed, and then he's unlocked again in 2016, and then Doom Eternal happens, we know the Slayer is at least millions, again, if not billions of years old. He should be extremely skilled and very proficient, and should waste literally zero movement. Doomslayer also has multiple levels of armor. I'll go ahead and quantify them right now. The first is the suit that he's wearing, that's supposed to help protect him against damage, so 1 level of armor. This is before Doom 2016, by the way. Then you have the armor that stacks on top of your health. We're unsure if health is another layer, but we're at least sure that's 2 levels of armor already. Then, you go to Doom 2016, and you still have armor. Now, I'm not quite sure if I can call this another layer of armor, but we can at least say that the Praetor suit is a whole other level of resistance far above what he had previously, as the suit was given to him by the rich. And then he has the Sentinel armor, which he can stack on top of his armor as well as his Praetor suit, putting him at around, give or take, 4 to 5 to even 6 layers of armor. Other than armor, something else I should mention is his unnatural ability to absorb energy. Using his Praetor suit, which is another form of absorption, he is able to absorb energy from the demons that he kills. It heals him and it grants him power. We don't know if it gives him all their life experiences and training and skills and whatnot, but we at least know that it heals him and it gives him power whenever he takes energy from the demons that he kills, that he drains. So, he has a form of draining that I'm sure would work on Rhulk. Other than that, the last thing is, he has a fate manipulation tied to his concept, which is Doom. His fate manipulation is not a kill con. His fate manipulation sets you up for another thing to kill you, like the Sentinel Hammer, the Sentinel Sword, or the BFG, or the Unmaker. That's everything I have on the Slayer, so let's move on to Rhulk. I covered Rhulk before and he has a lot less content, so I'll try to make this quick. The TLDR is, Rhulk's story happens in a book called Shattered Suns. Shattered Suns is about Rhulk coming to terms with the fact that he's a true monster of monsters. What happened was, back when he was still in his world, he lived in the forest with his clan, except he was a psychopath. So when people came in trying to kill his family, he killed them all himself. But they were afraid of Rhulk afterwards. The reason they came and invaded in the first place was to get his father, but the reason actually turned out to be because his father was a traitor. And then eventually Rhulk, trying to go back to his family, tried to find his father within the Light City. And then that's when he figured out his father was a turncoat, worked for the government for a while. His father turncoated back to their family, so then Rhulk hunted them down, Tried killing them, they threw him into the abyss, he met the Witness was the one who pushed him to evolve, and then he massacred his entire family, and then he upended the entire planet. Bingo, that's Rhulk's story. The scaling with Rhulk that people get is that because the Witness saw the timeline from start to finish, like he saw it and told Callus, people assume that because Rhulk's lore of being worthier than all life in the universe at the time somehow translates into him outscaling Nezarec, which there's a lot of context with Rude of Nightmares anyhow. But with Rhulk, besides Shattered Suns, you have Val the Disciple, and you have a little before Val the Disciple, all in Witch Queen. As for the scaling question itself, Rhulk scales pretty high. You can scale him anywhere from complex multiversal, infinite dimensional outerversal to high outerversal. For the inverse version of the question, what I do for Rhulk is I specifically scale him to the version of Oryx that we killed back in 2015. The reason for that is we learned about Oryx a long time after Val the Disciple. So therefore, the version of Oryx that I'm scaling Rhulk above is the version who scales above Savathun, who also outscaled that version of Oryx. It's unknown if Xivu Wrath scaled to or above Oryx at that time, but we know Rhulk scaled above all three Hive Gods regardless. The last debate I want to cover with Rhulk is probably the debate between him and Nezarec. Here's the thing. My core argument for Rhulk being outskilled by Nezarec is the fact that Nezarec one-shot the fire team when he was nerfed, and then when he was hyper-amped, he was able to tank attacks from the fire team reliably for a very long time. For Rhulk, the fire team scaled to him at the time, but they didn't have the proper hacks resistances against someone with a power like his. Most of the time, they were tanking Rhulk's attacks and throwing that same energy back at him at the risk of killing themselves. That's what happened with Rhulk. When he went all out, it was too late, he got put down. With Nezarec, it's a different story. The whole story of the raid is this round of Mortal Kombat where Nezarec is encouraging us to give him power so that he can be revived and challenge us to a fight to the death. That's been the whole story of Rude of Nightmares. That's how it was at the start. That's how it was at the end. The only revelation we see is who Nezarec actually looks like. You don't really need to use the Tree of Silver Wings or frankly Nezarec to outscale Rhulk. You can actually use Callus to outscale Rhulk due to the fact that he's stronger than all the nightmares you fight until up to the end of the season where you fight him where he's, weakened. Other than that, Callus became a disciple and Nezarec crapped on all the Cabal under the Witness by saying that they're all garbage to him and just feel free to slaughter them. So it's pretty easy to tell that Nezarec outscales Rhulk. That's mostly what it comes down to. Someone like Red Panda Riot likes Rhulk a lot because Rhulk genuinely has better writing than Nezarec. We know next to nothing about him, but we know a lot about Rhulk. That's why people like Rhulk than they do Nezarec. So they end up saying that we're biased or whatever just because Nezarec's stronger, when the reason is there's a reason to like Rhulk a lot, character-wise, but that doesn't matter in the realm of specifically power scaling, where he gets outclassed by a lot of other characters. To start with hacks, let's begin with Lubray's Ruin, Rhulk's trusty glaive. So, Lubray's Ruin, Rhulk can break the glaive and he can reform it out of nothing. This glaive in particular can break through quarks, so atoms. It can break through molecular creatures, naturally, as follows. and can destroy your entire body. It can destroy your mind, your spirit, your concept, and your narrative. There's consistent meta-narrative scaling, but that's not going to be for the video. What is important is Rhulk has narrative manip. He has subjective reality due to being paracausal. This means whatever he sees as reality he deems fit, subjective to his perceptions. This means Rhulk, on a certain level, can determine how the world is to him. Note that only paracausal entities in particular have this power, and it's very context specific. There's other forms of reality warping that I'm sure we haven't seen from Rhulk due to his lack of showings, but we know he has law manipulation. We know that due to being a disciple, he has even higher forms of endurance. So this means attacks against him will hurt very little, if at all, frankly. Rhulk in particular is a spiteful and sometimes angry person. However, when he unleashes his bloodlust, he has a form of darkness manipulation that he uses on his prey. This form of darkness manipulation works as a passive hack specifically when his bloodlust is enabled. When he stops holding back his bloodlust is when he can devour you with darkness. It blinds you and it deafens you, and as I'd imagine with Hive Lore and their darkness manipulation, since Rhulk would scale higher at this point, would also negate all of your other senses and perceptions. Going back to what I said earlier about Rhulk due to him being a disciple, we also know that he has a form of invulnerability. We're unsure specifically of why he has invulnerability, but he can tank anything to the face and not give a single crap. He can take a whole team of Galahorns to the face, Sleeper Simulants, Whisper the Worm, you name it, he'll eat it, he doesn't care. This means something like Wishender, Arbalest, Lament are all the best weapons in the game for specifically shield breaking purposes, and if we use the lore implications of those weapons, which I don't think anyone has a problem with, this means Rhulk more or less can ignore shield piercing attacks on his disciple armor, as well as himself even when he's vulnerable. So like the Doomslayer, it's going to take a lot to even hurt him, if at all. Like how the Doomslayer has a form of Doom manipulation, Rhulk is a similar entity with a form of Ruin manipulation. When the Doomslayer inflicts doom on his foes, he gains power. When Rhulk causes ruin and devastation to his prey, he also gains power. In the ruin left of the damage he does, he gains purpose and as a result, a power increase due to his nature being that of a ruinous creature. He has 6 eyes, although it's unknown how much it increases his perception compared to humans, but I'd imagine it's probably by some degree. We know he's used to looking around during the night, so even if his sense is weakened, he doesn't really need his eyesight to look at you, or he straight up has night vision. He's had to live in the wilds for a long time, so he's used to surviving by himself in harsh environments. Despite the fact that he's petty and sometimes angry, he can actually keep a level head, regardless of what he's dealing with, even in his rage. He has multiple rush attacks. He can put up a giant shield, which the very purpose of it is to keep you out. And then he has blast attacks that he can fire from his hands also. He has flight, although it's unknown why he didn't use flight in his duel against us, which my personal theory is he viewed us as an equal and worthy to challenge him enough at that point because we broke the shield. Now, I probably haven't talked about the Upended to this point, but that's because it's more than likely Rhulk's most dangerous weapon. It's actually a machine that has to be activated. Although he can use it with his power because we had to use Rhulk's power on the Upended to activate it on him. So I'm willing to bet that on some level, like the Witness, he can control the Upended with his power. That's a similar amp to what Callus got when he's able to manifest Mind State within reality. I'm sure his control over the Upended in order to represent Ruin is the case in reality, although we'll leave that one to be theoretical. But the Upended is very scary, straight up. With the Upended, it reverses and inverts. One of the stars of his homeworld was a very gaseous star, but it was a supergiant. But see, gases are not matter. What ended up happening was Rhulk cracked the star and it exploded like it was a planet. Like tectonic fractures happened and it couldn't sustain itself and it broke. The Upended turned something that was gas into not gas, reverted and inverted its very functions in an enemy. He can use this on his foes in the form of a pinpoint attack, or on the level of annihilating a star. That's all I really have for Rhulk's hacks, so let's look at who wins round 1. Alright, so that was weird when it happened. So, first off, I think Rhulk soloing Doom is kind of a weird debate, so we're mostly going to keep it a Rhulk versus the Slayer. First off, we know about the voice from Doom, but we know nothing about it. We know the Slayer is stronger than Davoth to the degree that Davoth had nothing for the Slayer, straight up. Even if he was quote-unquote unnerfed and at his strongest, the Slayer would still win. That's ultimately what it would be. The consequence of that, however, is that he's stuck at infinite 5th dimensional. Whereas someone like Rhulk, if you've seen my content in the past, you know that the 10D argument, that the infinite dimensional argument, the Throne World stuff, the Savathun stuff, the Callus scaling, it all adds up, frankly. Once you start scaling characters in Destiny above Oryx, it starts going really wild. Like, in Val the Disciple era Destiny 2, Rhulk was going to run the Fade on all 3 Hive Gods at the same time. That's how powerful he was in Destiny's past. I feel like Rhulk now is where Oryx was by Witch Queen. Like, I think Rhulk's pretty strong, but he's at the point where he's starting to get power crept, and you can feel it. However, that doesn't change the fact that he's stronger than the Slayer. There's no comparison between the two. Now, if we wanted to bring a control factor into place and assume what would happen if stats were equal, okay, that's kind of a different conversation. So, let's equalize stuff right away so we don't have to run into contendables. Age and experience seems pretty relative. Billions of years old, you know, that's fine. They're both billions of years old, so they're both experienced. The Slayer has Doom manipulation, and Rhulk has Ruin manipulation. Rhulk's Fate manipulation would counter the Slayer's Fate manipulation. However, it wouldn't overpower the Slayer to such an immense degree that he would be able to force the Slayer to tell him what he can and can't do, and whether or not he could destroy himself. The Slayer, because of the fact that he has his own Fate manipulation, could still resist Fate manip from Rhulk. But he's not setting up Rhulk to be one-shot, which is the problem for him. So he's going to have to start relying on other tactics, such as his other forms of weaponry, like the Unmaker, the BFG, the Sentinel Blade, and the Sentinel Hammer, or any of his other weapons in his arsenal, like the Meat Hook Shotgun. I think it's fine if you argue that the Slayer can break Lubre's Ruin, but Rhulk can just remake it. I think, however, Rhulk has the advantage on the Slayer once he throws that shield up. As soon as he throws that shield up and he creates a dome around him, the Slayer's not getting to him. He's going to have to find a way to absorb Rhulk's energy in order to go at him and fight him. Which, I could see him doing that, but he'd have to remove Rhulk's invulnerability as well. which, as you know from Doom Eternal, he couldn't harm the Con Maker outside of Urdak. If he couldn't harm the Con Maker outside of Urdak, how do we know he'd be able to harm Rhulk in the same capacity that he could not harm the Con Maker, other than when they fought in Urdak? I honestly don't think that there's an answer for it, which is the reason why I give Rhulk the win. Now, it's not just the shield and the invulnerability, it's also the Upended. I don't know if the Doomslayer has a resistance to the Upended, or if his armor is going to be enough to take it. I know Rhulk has better hacks resistance than the Slayer. What I will give the Slayer, though, is that he has that dog in him. He's going to keep going until he's dead, quite blatantly. And he's going to be able to keep up with Rhulk's power increases as they fight. As Rhulk's concept of ruin manifests, the Slayer's concept of doom will take shape. And they'll constantly get stronger and adapt to each other. However, one of them in the end has to go down. The Slayer is incredibly intelligent, be able to work on his Predator suit as well as make a stronger version of it by Doomslayer. If you're in the Fortress of Doom, you can go to the workshop and see what the Slayer's been working on. But that doesn't change anything, really. That doesn't really change the fact that Rhulk could still high diff the Slayer with the Upended. Even if you don't accept that Rhulk could beat the Slayer with his reality warping, subjective reality, or ontology stuff. It's just in the end, you're still going to get the mid to high diff in equal stats because Rhulk has the Upended. The Slayer's not took anything to the face on the level of the Upended before. And they're both going to be powering it as they fight. So, in the end, Rhulk takes the win. If nothing else, he'll be able to stall the Slayer long enough to put him down finally. Is this the Slayer is... Well, he's pretty bonkers, but we're going to have to see what's going to happen in the next Doom game before we can give the Slayer a new limit. Because right now, his current limit puts him below Rhulk. Honestly, people wank the crap out of the Doomslayer all the time. If you hear someone in the comments saying that he is out-of-versal for X and Y reason, they don't know how to scale Doom whatsoever. In the end, Doom and Destiny are just games. If you like having fun playing Doom, play Doom. If you like having fun playing Destiny, play Destiny. But it really doesn't matter who you like as a character. It's just Rhulk's stronger between the two. That's it. Anyway, my name is Nothing Important here. I hope you'll have a good one. Like, share, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.